Hello everyone, this is gonna be a quick guide on the clown. I won't get into much details about builds this time because his power is it's not complex, and the clown can work with so many builds that it's pretty much meaningless to show one or two. It won't make much of a difference. Once you get a grasp on how to deal with loops and what are some decent combinations, you are good to go. First, I'll explain briefly about his power, then I'm gonna show some good add-ons combinations, then good perks that goes well with him in general, and in the end I will explain how to get around with loops in situations that you can actually do so. So his power is pretty straightforward. You start the game with 4 bottles of pink smoke, cause this bastard is a drug dealer. And by default, they have a mediocre area of effect. They disorient and slow survivors that pass through these smokes. And hitting them while wasted, meaning that you hit them under the effect of the smoke, gives additional blood points. So it's always good to throw a bottle first if you want to pip and have a good score at the end of the game. Yeah, good for farming, so why not, right? The first good combination of add-ons is Sticky Soda Bottle and Solvent Jug, because it will help you to get a grasp of his ability, get the timing right, and etc. And with one of the most powerful effects that he has, because do not underestimate making a survivor exhausted. Most survivors nowadays run perks like Dead Hard, Balance Landing, Sprint Burst, and usually they plan their moves counting on these effects, so negating that can have a pretty strong impact on the game. Another good combination you should have in mind is either 15 volume percent and Flask of Bleach. And it's pretty straightforward. One of them increases the duration in which the survivor stays in the smoke effect, and the other one makes them even slower movement speed wise. This combination is good because it allows you to get closer to the survivors and stop them from getting to a loop with more certainty. It's pretty self-explanatory. You should be using your power in situations that wouldn't be worth it with other add-ons, because with this combination, hitting them with a smoke will make you catch up even if you seem too far. And third and last, really worth mentioning in my opinion, is the Redhead's Pinky Finger combined with Cheap Gin Bottle. One of them is extremely busted for obvious reasons, right with it, which is the pinky. You hit them with one bottle and they get exposed. So you hit them with your M1 and they're down. And the other one is the Cheap Gin Bottle, is because it increases the number of bottles you can carry, so it's good. There's no denying that. But on this regard, I will give you guys some examples on how to use your bottle and land your bottle with more consistency. One good consistent way of going about it is to slow them with a bottle first, not primarily aiming at them, but if you get them with the first one it's fine, but the most important is to slow them. And then you throw a second bottle aiming at their body, which should be at the center of the screen, making them exposed, therefore downing them with one hit. Sometimes it's worth to fake it like you were going somewhere and you didn't see them. Sometimes survivors fall for that. It's quite funny in my opinion. And in this case, barbecue and chili may be very useful to try and throw this type of mind games. And then you throw a bottle when they're close enough. So, you know, it's a very funny thing to do from time to time. Now, talking about decent perks to use, you should always consider using Frankling's Demise to avoid, being abused when you have the opportunity to do so. Like, let's say that you got into a lobby and you saw a survivor with 4 toolboxes or a ton of med kits or flashlights. Not only because it makes the item lose durability, but of course mainly because if they drop an important item, they will often make mindless plays and crazy plays to try and take the item back, leading to some pretty funny situations. Now, barbecue and chili also goes very well with the clown because sometimes the information on where they are can make a big difference if you want to make the right decision or not, like in this clip for example. Here there was one object of obsession that showed herself opening the gates and an injured guy, making it pretty safe for me to hook the other survivor that I downed earlier. And with this hooked, the object of obsession couldn't be looking at me or I would know exactly her position. So she was looking away, and by that she couldn't get into a locker because I would probably be able to she wouldn't know exactly what I was doing. So that allowed me to hook the guy, get the barbecue and chili, see where she was, obviously looking the other way. She couldn't be looking at me since she was going for the save. And then I got one kill that I shouldn't have, right? And I got this kill only because of this perk. So it goes very well with the clown with the right atoms. Considering that clown is primarily a one killer, having saved the best for last is also a good idea in most cases. I have to also mention Spirit Fury plus Enduring. It's always worth mentioning for killers that have problem with looping, because it gives you the ability to hit a survivor pretty much twice in a row if you can manage the time. Like, you launch for a hit and then you hit them, you get stunned by a pallet, the pallet breaks, you get out of the stun and you hit them again. That's pretty much how people play it. Pretty basic and pretty good. At last, how to deal with loops. Sometimes you simply can't, but the fact that your power slows and disorients them, mind gaming some pallets isn't very hard, like in this case for example. Here, I threw a bottle over the pallet so that she has to make a decision, considering that I have the two atoms, one that increases the duration of the cloud effect, and another one that decreases their speed. She has two very difficult decisions to make. First, she either faults the pallet, and I'm pretty close to that, or she keeps running and try to run around the loop. So these are kind of very difficult decisions to make, at least in these situations. So it's not like she made a complete huge potato mistake. It's just that these decisions, when they come into play, you have to be a very experienced survivor to deal with it. And this is one reason why the clown is not especially good at rank 1, because very good survivors tend to know how to deal with it. And then you're gonna get looped pretty much like any other killer would. It's very frustrating at rank 1. And there lies the last and ultimate question. Okay, how can you deal with loops and when you cannot deal with them? So in games that are very difficult, what you will have to do is, like any other non-viable, let's say it like that, killers, you will have to slug. And slug comes with experience and knowing when is the time to do it, because if you do it too early, you will not get enough points to pip, so you will not get enough points to actually win the game, even though you may get 4k. So yeah, and by doing that, sometimes you will have to kind of switch between slugging and hooking, and then you slug only for the pressure. You know, you will have to get the feeling for that. The clown is pretty good at that, but at rank 1, sometimes you will have to start slugging way too early, and you will still not get enough points. You will get brutal killer, which means that you will not black pip and you will not pip either. So yeah, you will have to kind of figure it out and on what's the measure for that. So yeah, I don't know, I'm afraid that this is probably one of the last easy killers, first and last easy killer that I'm going to make a guide about, because there's not much to talk about. Every other similar killer that, like, let's say like Legion, the Clown, the Doctor, every killer that doesn't have mobility and at the same time doesn't have anything that helps them to end chases quickly. They kind of all work in the same way. They will use the same add-ons to try and work around the same problems that they have, which is not being able to make enough pressure for the game to last long enough. So probably if I make another guide, it will probably either be about a very kind of difficult killer or a killer that is or about what makes a good killer or a bad one. I don't know, I'll think about that. If you have any ideas, any suggestions, you may leave it in the comments. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe, and do all these good things so I know that I'm doing an actual good job. Bye bye.